And
Yeah,
sometimes
that's what
it
I'm saying.
depends. It
I'm just against
depends.
I'm just against the beating. That's all.
Okay, hold on. It depends to the gravity of what you did, right? Like, I grew up in an African home, and for some time, like for some punishment I had were beatings, and that did not make me to say, "Oh, I hate my parents." No, because one, I knew that some of those, like the gravity of the things that I did, that made my parents to actually beat me, it was justifiable. They didn't just beat me out of nowhere or because of they just want to punish me. The beating was not like a punishment for every day or every little thing. Beating was set aside for the gravity of certain things that you do.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to listen to me, dear?
Mm-hmm. I'm listening.
Could you give us an example as to what qualified you to get beat up by your parents? What kind of mistake did you have to do?
Okay, we all know in an African home, like it's different from an American home. Like when these kids are like 13, 14, they have boyfriends and all that, you understand? That kind of thing. Like here in America, you encourage it, right? And back home, we all know that's not encouraged. Like you have to be 18. In our parents' eyes, it has to be when you're an adult. So let's say when I was a kid, let's say if I had a boyfriend, and for example, if there was this time when I was young, right, and I was coming home from school, and I I ran into my dad with a guy kissing me, that warranted him to beat me up, and obviously it was wrong. I shouldn't be doing it at that age. And honestly, I don't beat my child right now for those things because I know like there are certain things. But even as when in America here, there are some things my daughter do. I don't really beat her, but I give her one or two strokes.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Let's say let's use that same logic with you now, okay? So when you are working, for example, and you mess up, do you get beaten?
When I'm what?
When you're working at work and you mess up.
I'm an adult.
Oh, really? You're an adult. So
yes, here's the thing.
No. Listen. I let you talk, didn't I?
Mm-hmm. I'm listening.
So you're an adult, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're an adult, which means you can think for yourself, correct?
Yeah.
So because you're an adult and you can think for yourself, you don't need to get beaten, correct?
No.
No, wait, no. You said you are an adult, so you don't need to get beaten.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, correct. So kids are growing and they're still learning about life, right? So because they cannot think for themselves, they need to get beaten for certain things.
What do you mean they cannot think for themselves?
I mean, you just proved my point. I asked you, do you get beat? You said no, I'm an adult.
You have to make me understand what you mean by kids don't think for themselves.
I mean, in terms of maturity, the adult brain develops at 25. So yes, by default, there's going to make a lot of mistakes.
That's what we're saying. You punish kids to let it's like you're teaching kids between right and wrong.
Right.
So
okay.
you can't correlate an adult.
Yeah.
You can't correlate an adult and a kid because one, if you're an adult, yeah, you keep growing, right? We all keep growing, but it's different from like when you're growing up as a kid.
Okay, so
you can't correlate the two.
Okay, listen. So I can correlate the two. Have you Googled the most developed countries and disciplined countries in the world?
No.
If the discipline that we use in African countries, take Nigeria for example, if it played some benefits to that, why hasn't that manifested into the development of our countries?
I don't know.
The American society works compared to the African society, doesn't it?
Obviously, it's too different. You can't compare America.
You can. No.
You can't compare America to Africa.
Listen. Look, listen. It's not about you cannot compare. When you're talking about countries, you can definitely compare because countries have the same things that happens: economy, societal progress, corruption level, corruption index. Let's not play this moving the goalpost. Please listen. I don't have time for that. The American society compared to the Nigerian society. Which of the two societies are further along in terms of leadership, in terms of development, in
You
terms of
can't
self-esteem.
compare America and Africa. That's what I'm saying.
Why
you
not?
can't because America is a first world. In fact, this a superpower world. So you can't compare America. Like they are vast difference. Like there's
Why
a
is that?
huge
Why is
difference
that? Why?
between
Okay, why is that?
you, because one, now you're thinking about you are thinking about leadership issue, and besides, America has been set in stone since when? You can't compare American system to an African system. I'm not talking about
Okay.
even bringing you. You're trying to compare American system and the way it works to African system and
So
the
why
way
are you
African
there? Why are you
system
there
works.
then?
You
Why are you
you
there?
can't really compare that and try to bring them together to bringing up a child.
Okay, okay. Can I ask you a question? Why are you there?
Of course, I'm here for greener pastures.
Oh, okay, okay. Do you beat your kids there for certain things?
Like I said before,
Yeah.
I don't beat my kids for every single thing, and I don't
No,
even
no, no, no,
listen.
no, 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 no,
Listen,
listen, no. Listen. You said before that you give them a couple of strokes, no?
yeah, one or two strokes.
Okay, so no, listen. So when you give them one or two strokes, do you do it in a place that is visible where people can see the mark?
I give her in her hand. When you
Okay.
when like I said
And
before,
does
right?
her teacher know about this?
If a teacher wants to know, she can know. And like
How?
I said,
How?
even in America, if you check America, discipline is okay. You give your child one or two strokes, you just don't have to leave marks or beat them, destroy them like that.
Okay, so you know. Oh, so you're telling me disciplining, beating your kids is okay in America as long as you hide it.
No, and that's not what I said.
Ah.
I didn't say as long as you hide it. I didn't say as long as you hide it.
You say as long as you don't leave a mark.
Yeah.
What does that
Even
mean?
in Africa, like I said, like you didn't want to listen to me. Like I was bringing my instances.
Remember, I warned
parents
you.
didn't beat-
I warned
like
you.
my
I warned
parents,
you
here's the
before.
thing.
So what
My
would you
parents
say?
didn't beat me for fun, or they didn't beat me to leave they beat me in my waist or my hand to make me know that what I did is wrong. It doesn't mean they don't do it. I don't know for other homes, because obviously Africa, when it comes to beating, everybody is different. Some people beat their kids like they're animals. That's not the kind of beating I'm talking about.
Okay,
I'm
so
not talking about the kind of beating that people
but you know,
obviously.
listen. I get your point. There's no need to go on rants. Listen, I'm going to say this, and then maybe we'll move on. The most disciplined countries, whether you want to compare them or not, because this is where a lot of Africans make a lot of mistake. We love to move the goalpost. So you cannot compare the two. It's different worlds. No, when you're talking from a macroeconomic standpoint, you most definitely can compare. Period. But we don't like that because it challenges our belief system, which is fine. My point is this: even in the America you are living in, it's against the law, and you know that. That's why you hide it.
Oh no, hottest my child, speak her mind to me.
And you understand that whether we like to acknowledge this or not, the severe beatings and the severe discipline, because that's what we do, is not discipline, that we effect on our kids in African countries, especially Black African, particularly Nigeria, if it was effective, if it was effective, our societies would be further along. You are in a developed country like America because America, compared to Nigeria, builds the esteem of a child for the most part. It's not perfect, which manifests into an aware young population. Look at the young people talking about politics. Look at the young people making TikToks. You can see the confidence oozing out of them. Where do you think that comes from? But look at it. Whether we like to believe it or not, there is a strong connection between physical abuse, because that's not discipline, physical abuse on kids, and dysfunctional leadership. There's a massive connection. Anyway, I want to move on to the next. Thank you. Next time, when next you beat your kids, make it visible so that the police can see you, okay?
I'm very fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. Welcome, dear.
So my submission is that I agree with everything that you've said here. You can probably tell by my accent, I'm a child of the diaspora. I was born and raised in the UK, but I've spent a considerable amount of time back and forth in Africa in the last, I would say, 5 years alone, where I travel around I spend time in certain nations, and I've actually worked a few times out there. And this imaginary idea, which is to support people's inherent inferiority complex of African kids being better than the Western kids, is something that needs to be demystified.
Precisely.
And it's a veil that exists because people want to massage their ego, massage the reality of their situation, and want to make themselves feel good in a bad situation. I mean, like, for example, my background, obviously I'm African, West African. So last year I spent 6 months working in a particular nation. I hadn't been there before, but I went alone to work there on the ground and stuff like that. And the things I saw, not surprising, but I will say surprising here in the context that, again, it bursts the bubble of what people think Africanness is, which again is it goes back to the inferiority complex and the ego that creates this building of hope and confidence that isn't there, and it's okay. For me personally, I don't feel the need to use my superiority or power upon anyone to say that, oh, Western kids are better than African kids, because that's embarrassing. It's shameful. It's embarrassing and it's shameful. I see it as this. I was once a child just like the rest of us. All kids are the same. The only thing that distinguishes a Western child from an African child is the nurturing and the environment and the choice that that child has. That's the only thing. I saw kids in Africa that were addicts in multi-generational homes that people will proudly call communities that they want to be a part of, because it is adding to the facade of one being supported, because in the West we don't have that support. And let me tell you, everybody dreams to have independence. I don't care what anybody says. We start off as children needing help, but the child at some point wants that independence to walk from the mother and the father, and that child gets that. So I say this to say, it's not to make anyone feel small or anything, but we need to be honest. I think a lot of people find it hard with this subject because it means that they will have to see their parents as individuals rather than my mummy, my daddy, my grandma, my uncle, my auntie. No, they're individuals. From a very young age, I wouldn't say that having grown up in London, it wasn't easy for my family. It wasn't, and despite them coming from a well-to-do background in Africa. But as I say, London is a leveler. You come here and you start.
Yep.
But having been born and raised here, from a very young age, the greatest gift I gave to myself, and it didn't come easy, but the greatest gift I gave to myself from a very young age was to see my parents as individuals. From that point onwards, nothing could hurt me as much as the reality of a situation with family. And I think this is the issue with a lot of the people here on this live. They're taking everything to offense. Someone said they don't want to disgrace. What's the disgrace? What's the shame? We need to detach ourselves from shame and disgrace. What is this all about? We must see our parents as individuals. That adds context to how they were raised, how they raised us, where they came from, why they did what they did, and how and why we came about. Because there's no way we can have this conversation without speaking of Planned Parenthood. Mm-hmm. How and why we came about, because that adds to the ways in which they raise us and why they choose to do certain things in terms of disciplining us. That's my thought.
Well, I'm looking for these kind of conversations where we can have very practical, unemotional conversations, right? And I myself, I went through a process where I took off the rose-colored glasses when it came to assessing my parents, right? And I saw them for who they are, individuals, flawed, like I am, like we all are, right? Mm-hmm. But you see, when I talk about, let me take it to the initial point of where this idea that African kids are more disciplined than the West. I've never understood where it came from. First off, like that's not true. Mm-hmm. It's just not true by default, because if you were truly, if the African style of raising kids was better than the Western style, the African societies wouldn't be dysfunctional, period. Because kids are because we know one thing we love. Kids are the future of tomorrow. Kids are the future of tomorrow. We've had 2 decades of these kids to be the future. They're not. You understand? So
Yeah.
that is such a, I've never understood it seems to be like a one-sided superiority complex, because I've never heard Western kids talk about the way I raise my kids better than the kids in Africa. I've never heard that. It's a one-sided ego jerk off, in my opinion.
It's so true, and I agree with you. And also, let's be honest. Let's get down to it. Let's really get down to the nitty gritty. And this is not to put any fault or blame on anybody, but let's speak honestly. I'm not blaming anybody, but if we're going to speak about it, let's speak about it.
Like I said, a lot of Africans live in a bubble, and it's a bubble that they built to make themselves feel better. Because one thing about Africans, especially Nigerians, is we love to feel better than somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ego of Nigerians, man, Nigerians' ego needs to be studied. I swear, the ego of Nigerians, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. A lot of Nigerians, we have so much pride and ego. And sometimes they're like, where is this coming from? I don't know where it's coming from. Mm-hmm. We need to be better than someone, which is why she said, look at the UK and knife crime. Not knowing, she didn't even know the data. She just saw UK crime. Not knowing that majority of the offenders are blacks.
Yeah.
Black African.
You seem to have come with onion, Maggie, and pepper, because the way you just cooked here, it needs to be studied. My sister, this topic is really touching, and I'm a mother. My son is 17 years old. There was a time I was whooping that ass, and after a while, I said, I need mental health support, blood. I'm not mentally okay. I got issues. Do you know what I did? I went to therapy. No, wait, hold on. I would put on my camera because I need you guys to feel me when I say this. I had to go and get help. You understand? Being a single mum is traumatic. It is heartbreaking. It is depressing. It can suck the very blood from your veins. Do you hear me? So a lot of people are in this thing of being a parent, even if they're not a single parent, but you're hating the experience. And I need you to admit, let me put on my camera. Look me in my good eye. Hold on. Sorry, people. Can you see me? Can anybody see me?
No, but we can hear you though.
Wait, what? Okay, sorry, I did it.
Yeah, we can.
Look me in my eye. A lot of us, we're hating the experience. But to admit that we're not okay, that we're not in a space where we can parent effectively, I had to go and get mental health support. And it's only then and it was a friend that helped me acknowledge that, you know what, you are depressed. Everything you're saying is depression. And I had to accept I am depressed. Do you understand? And then I spoke to my son. My son was like, Mommy, there was a time that I hated you. I hated living here. You was beating me for everything. I felt like you hated me. I felt like you regretted giving birth to me. And I said, you know what? There's times I did feel like that, but it's not your fault. That's something I needed to fix. And I'm sorry. And I love you. And you did not deserve that. And it's not your fault. I'm so close with my son because I had to admit, like, he said it to me that he felt like his life was an inconvenience to mine because any little thing, what I had to do, I had to tell work, I am mentally unstable. Say the words. You see, as a Christian, if you cannot exorcise a demon until you call it by its name. I repeat, you cannot exorcise a demon until you call it by its name. I went to work and said, I'm not mentally stable right now, right? And I took leave off of work for mental health. In that time, I rested. I cleaned up my house. I redecorated my son's room. I redecorated the house. I did stuff that would give me a new, fresh take on life, that would allow me to see things clearly. I started looking for mental health support. I went to the doctor. I was put on a waiting list to get counseling, which eventually came through. A lot of you're so greedy. You're not ready to, I had to be broke for a little bit. Because the money that I thought I was chasing, as I was chasing the money, I was losing my mental health. A lot of you work. Are you Rihanna? You'll be working. Meanwhile, you don't, I said this already in my back to school series, you don't know your kids. A lot of you do not know your children. The amount of people that was selling their children, don't be like Esther. Esther is more mentally stable. Esther's happy. Esther's confident. Esther's a baddie because I took time to sort myself out. In that time that I was not working, I started going to the gym. I got a regular exercise regime, cleaned up my diet, put myself on a cleaning regimen with my home, started focusing on being around people that encouraged me, started writing to myself, journaling. All of those things have literally changed the way I parent, changed the way I see myself. A lot of you need to just accept that you need 4 months off of work because you're nuts. You are nuts. You are tired, right? You're overworked, underpaid, you're depressed. Your workplace can pay for you to be off work. The first month, I think the first 2 months, they'll give you full pay. The second month is going to be cut down a bit, but that's okay. Sometimes as well, what I used to do is I used to do waitressing. So where the shortfall was, don't get me wrong, I didn't earn exactly how much I was missing, but at least it was topping it up because I needed to take that time off. But a lot of you do not want to accept the fact that maybe you might have to be broke a little bit, but you need to find yourself and gather yourself. Because the truth of the matter is, many of us, you need a moment. Because a lot of the time when I was beating my son, I was frustrated with my own life, with my own choices, with my own pattern. Nothing to do with him. And if we have to take this to a biological and psychological and sociological perspective, a child's frontal lobe has not finished developing. So technically, an adult is a perfect candidate for beating because you know exactly what you're doing. Adults should be getting flogged, because you know what you're doing. But you see children that they're still learning, they're trying to find themselves, they're still trial and erroring. We should give them more grace. Beating a child doesn't do anything, and all it does is set up the pattern for when they're in adult relationships, romantic relationships, where they might not necessarily be being beaten. They could be emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually being beaten, but they will still make the subconscious connection between some form of chastisement with love. But there's a context to that. How are you chastising this person? Because there's a way to tell someone off without completely humiliating them. Imagine when I grew up, I know some people, the worst people that I know are the parents that were so strict. The house had to be clean. They weren't allowed to go out. They barely had any friends. Every little thing they beat them for. A lot of those people are on hard drugs, or they turned into a shower, or some sort of nefarious lifestyle choices. I noticed that. It's not that deep. And a lot of one thing before I land that I noticed a lot of parents used to justify this is people will say, what if someone who are these blood clot people? I need to meet them. Who are these people? Because there's always people, this person, someone. For who? As someone that used to work for your governors and your ex-presidents, their kids are dysfunctional and drug addicted and lazy and like there's so much anyone that you're idolizing that runs Africa, I'm here to tell you their children ain't shit. Okay? Go easy on your children. A lot of your children are better than the majority of your governors and presidents. Do you know how much cases that are in court by these governors' kids, ex-president's kids for charges like rape, drunken driving, disorderly conduct, violence, domestic abuse? They're horrible people. There's nothing to admire. I land.
I agree with what both ladies have said. As an African woman, right, born and grew up in the UK, the way I have seen our parents bring us up, it's very barbaric. The beatings, everything you would get. We as Black people or African people, we do not know how to talk to our kids.
That's it.
We take it this way. We're the adults. We know it all. We do not communicate. all we know how to do is to beat the child, scream at the child, use words, not interact. We work endless hours. We leave the kids to grow up by themselves. If they don't do well at school, we chastise them. And kids would be kids, you understand? From age 18 months, parents have started beating up their kids for little accidents. You understand? Why did you do this? Why did you wet the bed? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Slaps, canes, batons, belts, you name it. They would
Spoons,
inflict
pots, everything. It's
wounds
crazy.
on the kids.
It's crazy, man.
You understand? I have been to an African country where I have worked with kids and parents, and most of the time, if the mother is upset with the father, she takes it out on that child. All her frustrations goes on the child. If the father is upset with the wife or the mother, all the frustration goes on the child. The innocent kids are the ones going through such harsh treatments from the ones who are meant to love them. You understand? And it is so wrong. And then people are here making excuses. I will beat my child. For what? Why would you beat your child mercilessly? What discipline is that? That's not love. You don't love your kids. No, you don't. Why would I want to beat my child mercilessly because she broke a plate, or he spilled some juice on the floor, or he had an accident in school? Why would I want to do that? I have worked in prisons where majority of the boys in the prisons are African boys. And when I ask them questions, it breaks my heart as a mother to listen to what they have to say to me. People are talking about knife crime. Why has your son got a knife in his bag or in his trousers? Are you there as a parent, or are you there chasing coins, as you people normally say, working endless hours, not giving your kids the support, not being attentive to your children, all in the name of what? London is hard, it's harsh. Every country is hard and harsh. But where are we, the parents? What are we bringing into society? What's the point of being a parent if you cannot look after your kids? Most of us have grown from broken homes. It's a vicious cycle. My mother met her parents are beating her. That's all I know. I did the same thing. That's all I know. I started passing it on to my kids. That's all my kids know. Beating. For what? Have you sat down and asked what's going on? Like the lady said, she had to take time out to see what she was going through to make her become a better person for herself and a better mother for her son. You understand? These are the things we need to do. Look after yourself first before you can be able to look after your kids. Beating does not resolve the issues. We all have mental issues. We need to address these things like these. This is why Africa is so corrupt, failed. We ask for loans, grants, and this and that. We entrust in our leaders. Then our leaders will treat us like garbage, and we're still supporting them. How do we grow? We cannot even correct ourselves. We cannot even learn. Anything you take from here, go to Africa, they'll tell you, do not bring your Western theories here. But we ask them for their money. We ask them for their medications. We ask them for help. Our kids are unable to communicate with us as parents. We're not willing to learn from our kids. We think we know it all. We are broken, Kingsley. We are broken men and women. And we're not willing to accept our faults, our shortfalls. You understand? Our ego. Failed ego. Where is that taking us? How do we break this cycle? We're still engaged in that slavery mentality. All we know is beat. For what? How do we grow as a nation? How do we grow as a continent? We refuse to accept our shortfallings. Now we're talking with you, and you have people who are still bashing at you because you're bringing up these kind of conversations to empower us all. Nobody is perfect, but let us learn from our mistakes and learn from one another. That's all I have to say.
Can I just add in before Ivy Rose goes? You know, one of the things, like someone put, a lot of kids got sent back overworked absent parents. I am one of those overworked absent parents. I'm tired, just exhausted. And you have to be willing to admit that you need help, because a lot of the time we create an island by not wanting to show that actually I'm not doing so good. Actually, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm unsure, or I'm struggling. We don't want to be presented as the person that's the weak link, but the decay of the moral, of the character shows in the child. And then sometimes you'll use church as a humiliation ground to tell people, oh, he got expelled from school. I don't know what is wrong with this stupid child. Humiliate. Some of you are narcissists. Your child's first bully, and you have a humiliation kink. It turns you on to embarrass your child publicly. You love it. You love to compare. I remember one time this guy that I was talking to, he said, he was a friend of mine. He did fraud. He said his parents were cussing him that, look at you, you're still in the house at your age. What, look, you can't do like your mates. And he said, like, he got fed up one day. And he said, what about you? Where's your billions? Dangote is your age mate. Where's your money? He said his dad went quiet.
No, but it's a fair point, though. It's a fair point. If you're going to compare me, where's the million? Why aren't you rich?
I mean... He said it. And I said, you know what? What did he say? He said his dad slammed the door and walked out. I said, exactly. Because Shebi, you and Dangote are age mates. Uncle, why you not do better? Eh?
Period.
And then the other thing that I wanted to say as well is when it comes to our discipline, a lot of our children, we for like, one thing that gets me, even at this age, almost 40 years old, if I tell someone that's older than me, actually you're wrong, or what you did was wrong, or I don't like that, or what did I say? You're not listening to me. Are you saying I'm stupid? Are you saying I'm dead? And then they'll say that because I'm saying to them that actually that's wrong, or you're not listening to me, I'm disrespectful. Get out of the habit of just because a child opposes your view or disapproves of your behavior or treatment, and they vocalize this, that does not make that child a disrespectful child, because you're the same person. If that child comes and tells you there's a bully in school, you're going to jump on the phone and be like, hello, teacher, and writing letters and doing whatever and telling your child to stand up for themselves. But I guess there's a cognitive dissonance between your child standing up for themselves when it comes to you. And you wonder how they're going to advocate for themselves when they're older, when every attempt to do that in the home, in the nuclear environment, has been shut down and sabotaged by you, the first bully, the parents.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for being very transparent with us. And that's why I want everybody to just let it out. I love when I see Africans, male or female, being transparent on a real issue. I like that, because we have this thing called the culture of silence, where everybody is perfect. I am good. I don't cry. I don't feel shit. I don't feel nothing. Anytime I have the opportunity to have this kind of open, transparent conversations, I let it go. I don't care, because it's rare. So when it does happen, let it go.
Hello. Sorry, I'm going to talk in a low tone. My son is sleeping right here.
Sure.
He's one. Girl, honestly, you were spitting fire, like fact upon fact upon fact. You brought in everything that I knew you were going to bring in, because I've watched some of your lives and they are always so on point. Now, and Jacinda as well, you came and, voiced the same kind of opinions. Let's just take it back. Now, we're talking about, being raised in an African household or African parents, and most especially here in the diaspora. Most African homes are not safe, I'm afraid to say so. They are not safe environments for children, for raising children. And when I say so, I don't mean in terms of, some of them are not safe physically because the children are battered. The children are being beaten. But most of them are not safe emotionally, because the children, even though they are not being beaten, they are being humiliated, they are being embarrassed, they are being talked down on, and they are being stripped of their self-esteem every single sentence that comes out of the parent's mouth. And that is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. If we look at, schools. Now, in terms of schools, it's say most of the children who are being targeted right now as we speak, who are being targeted in the UK for trafficking illegal substances, are children of Black African households. Why? Because the parents are absent. The parents are busy working. The parents are busy doing everything else apart from checking the children's bags, apart from supporting the children with homework, apart from having conversations with the children. They are busy working. The eldest child is always the one, who takes care of the home and all of that. Meaning that these children are left at the mercy of anybody else who can convince them that they care about them. And it is sad. It is a sad thing because we see it every single day in schools. And it's heartbreaking. Take something as simple as a parents' evening. That is a simple thing. All parents know that there's a parents' evening coming up because the school has sent out the school calendar at the start of the school year. So you know that in term 3, there's a parents' evening coming up. Why don't you attend that parents' evening? That's a simple thing. What stops you as a parent from going into your child's school and asking, how is my child doing? And meeting the class teachers and showing interest, an active interest in that child? If you say you love your child so much, why can you not give up work for that one day or rearrange that shift for that one day and go in and, and look after the child and actually show that interest? Because more often than not, African parents still do not attend parents' evenings. And I have talked about this to so many parents. I have talked about it in my videos and everything, but they still do not see it. So my question is, what do they really want? Because they are crying. They are crying that my child is this, that, and the other. They are crying that my child is disrespectful. They are crying that my child is this, my child is that, but they are not actively doing anything to salvage the situation. It means that they do not love these children. Because if you say you love your child, you are going to do everything to change. And when the adults in the house change, the children are going to follow suit. And until the adults change, nothing is going to change. Until the adults realize that they are the vehicle that will drive that positive change in their children and start learning and start paying for courses and start paying people, because often we want it given to us free. And sometimes when it's given to us free, we don't even value it. And start seeking support, even if that support is free, whether the support is paid or is free, seeking support and actively engaging with the support, especially in parenting, in managing those emotions, in managing anger, because we jump quickly to get angry and then we take it out on our children. I'll put it to you that any parent who raises their hand and beats their child does not love that child like they say they do. And I'll put it to you as well that any parent who raises their hand on their child has anger issues that they are dealing with. Yep. And they don't know how to help themselves and they need to go and seek help. Yep. Because if you did not, you would learn how to communicate with your child. You would learn how to manage that anger of yours. You learn to step away and not talk when you are angry. Yeah.
You said something that I want you to even expand on. If you beat your child, it's not, you don't love your child. And you said that's such a truth, that's a valid point. And a lot of Africans are going to push back on this. I think a lot of African parents didn't love their kids. They just saw you as a consequence of, you were like either a status symbol, because having kids is a big thing. Having kids is a big thing. You were a status symbol. You were just there. You're just the consequence of just, whatever. I needed you here, so here you are. It's not like that love was definitely missing. Because if you have a car and you love a car, you love your car, you don't hit that car recklessly. Say, I love my car. What do? You keep it tidy. You polish it. You take it to the dry cleaner, whatever. You take it to the mechanic. You keep it updated. You don't hit things that you say you love. Impossible. Impossible. And you're not going to convince me otherwise. But
and then there's one thing that I must emphasize here. So many Africans, and then we run to church, right? And then we quote the famous Bible passage, spare the rod and spoil the child. Honestly, if that is the only justification that you have for hitting your child, then there's so many other justifications in the Bible that you have for not managing your anger, for not being responsible with not causing your child to anger, because there's another Bible passage like that. And it, first off, when they say spoil the rod or spare the rod and spoil the child, the rod in that context, I do not think that the rod is a cane. The rod is discipline. And what does discipline mean? Discipline means to disciple. What does disciple mean? Disciple means to educate, to teach, to mentor, to coach. I did not hear to beat in that. And so if you are beating your child because you think that you are teaching them, that is not part of teaching. You are instilling fear in your child. And what many Africans, African households, what they see as respect, it is actually fear. Because I grew up in Africa. I was brought up in Cameroon, and there were situations where we were being beaten, right? Not many, fortunately enough, not many, but there were. And in most households, the children were afraid of the parents. They will not have any voice. They could not speak up. Whatever the parents said goes, and all of that. But we're growing now to realize that we're growing in a different society where we have to communicate better with our children. My question if you're here and you're listening and you're a parent, to land my plane, my question to you is, are you skilled up? Are you upskilling so that you can better parent with ease and with confidence? I did not say it was easy. So that you can better parent with ease and confidence, you need to upskill. If you can upskill at your work, you can upskill in your parenting skills as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, very quickly. So not again, but I will say this, to get to the heart of this topic, which is about the parenting of African children and if they're better than a Western child, we cannot interrogate this question without looking at how and why a child or children have come about in an African household. We must look at how and why those children were born to get to how it is the parent or the parents are choosing or carers are choosing to raise or beat the child in the ways that they do in regard to discipline. Because I feel as though a lot of parents and carers have children for reasons that maybe a lot of us on this live wouldn't have children for. As you said, I think earlier, status symbol.
Yeah, a lot of African parents did not love their kids. Yes. I'm telling you the truth. And I know people will not like to hear this, but I know I've detached from it. But go ahead.
Status symbol, out of boredom, out of, for example, for women, it's out of showing that you can actually reproduce and are actually useful in this world. Out of peer pressure, because we talk about peer pressure in a Western context, but African culture is filled with peer pressure from families, from friends, from community, dictating to you about how you should live your life and how you should be left, right, and center. And I'm going to say this one, out of documents. A lot of children were born out of paperwork.
My sister, repeat that again. Say it again.
Are we speaking tonight? A lot of children were born out of paperwork. And as we would say in the Western world, out of oops.
Sheesh.
And some of them were born to tie the men down.
I was going to get there. Right? Let's be honest.
Oh my God.
You're with a man and you want to hold him down. The only way to hold him down is to hold him down for 18 plus years with a child. Because let's be honest. Maybe if I was a woman who had a child, I wouldn't speak in this way. I don't have a child, but I'm speaking this way because I've seen. This is all lived experience. Let's be honest now. A lot of women want to remain in a man's life. They want to have engagement with their man. They want to have connection with that man. What best way to do it than have a child? And people's parents are also advising them to do the same thing. Let's be honest. Like, I'm not here to lie. I'm not here to add to the facade. I'm here to be honest. We will be free through honesty and truth.
But I have to say this. You guys, what you just said, Rosetta, man, that I never even thought about that. Man, that's another topic.
Good evening, everybody up here. I'm Nigerian. I'm always happy when people speak openly about mental health. And this is something that is highly prevalent among Africans in the diaspora. And they don't want to admit it because of the stigma attached to mental health. I personally had to train to become a therapist. That's not my major job, but I had to go train as a therapist because of the Africans in diaspora in churches because a lot of single mothers, you see them at churches. The church is like a comfort zone for them. But as soon as they come back home, it's all crisis. Congratulations to you that you got to a breaking point. You told yourself, I need to change. I need to do something. And what you did was a point where you had to do a hard reset. You had to do troubleshooting to reset your life. I want to say something quickly because I'm not going to take your time. But I want to point out something that is really happening presently. I live in England. And you see, a lot of people have just moved, lots of families from Nigeria to the UK. And the kids are traumatized. Just for knowledge's sake, you see, before I trained as a therapist, when I hear somebody is bereaved, I thought, oh, somebody died or somebody passed. But training as a therapist, I now have to understand that bereavement is any loss you encounter in your life and how that loss affects you and the grieving process you go through because of the loss encountered. I spoke about working. The kids were grieving at home. The loss of their mom, the loss of the love from their mom. She was not present. The kids, so many African children in the diaspora are grieving. And the parents come to them and they add to their grief by beating them up. Now, let me say this to you. A lot of people just moved from Nigeria. They've come for students, do their masters. Now, they have uprooted maybe their 3 young kids from maybe Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt. What they don't realize is the kids, when they move to the UK, the kids are bereaved already. The bereavement is the loss of their social network in Nigeria. Their friends, their colleagues at church, the friends in their neighborhood. It takes human beings a long time to build relationships. Kids build relationships. That's the process they begin to learn to trust people. Now, when you uproot these children and you bring them to England, now you have left a society where everybody looks like them, predominantly black. Now they come to multicultural England and you register them at schools and they get into a class. They got Caucasians, they got Indians, Chinese, name it all. Now the difficult thing is they got kids with a different accent, teachers with a different accent. The kids get to school, they are scared. They come back home. They tell their dad the next day, I don't want to go to school. The dad said, God forbid, the devil is walking. I can't. The demons are come again. Now that I have brought you to the UK, you want to say you don't want to go to school? They beat the children. Level 1. The kids are bereaved from being uprooted from Nigeria. It's not what they asked for. Yes, you want to give them a better life. Now they come to this United Kingdom. They are traumatized. They've never experienced winter in their lifetime. Now they've come to a country, they have to put on jackets and everything. And they get into the class. They are so scared because their accent is different. People might laugh at their accents. But they come back home because the parents don't know enough what is going on in the lives of their children. They add to the kids' trauma. They beat them up and say, put on your jacket. They scream, they shout, they are so loud. Put on your jacket. Do you know how much it cost me to bring you from Nigeria to England? A lot of children are looking for this opportunity. But I brought you here now, you don't want to go to school? The devil is a liar. You come back home today, we have to read the Bible, and I have to let you know that this demon must leave you. The child ain't got no demon. It's you that got demons, the parents. Because you don't know enough. So these kids get to school And they pick on these kids because of their accents. And these kids are bullied. Well, for your information, I taught in the primary and the secondary schools in United Kingdom for some years, and I left teaching. So I've seen it all in the schools. So these parents traumatizing the kids. You see the dad go to work in the morning. He comes back in the evening. The wife goes at night. The kids don't have time with their parents. All they know is you must go to school. If you don't go to school, it's a problem. They beat them up. But one of the things I have to say is this. If you don't have it, you can't give it. You can never give what you don't have. I'm thereby encouraging many people, Africans in the diaspora. Stress disorders are very real. Anxiety disorders are very real. Depression is real. A lot of families, the father, the mother, they are depressed. And once you are depressed, you take out your anger on the nearest person to you, the children. It is a very sad situation. We have to begin to fix these situations. And for somebody like me, I come on TikTok to help Africans in the diaspora. I give free therapy sessions because it is expensive. When people come to me, it's £90 an hour. But if I meet you on TikTok and I know you are in trouble, I will give you free therapy. That is my treat to humanity. Because mental health problem is the only problem you have. You do not know what is wrong with you. You do not know what is wrong with you when you have mental health problem. You think you are all right. You are carrying on going to work, but you have real mental health issues. And you are damaging the lives of the people around you because of the mental health issues you are suffering from. So I'm encouraging everybody to listen. If you never listened to Wakanda, she may have to rewind. You need a point in your life. You need to press the reset button and think, which is the way forward? Is this what I have to do? Because this country is tough, England. It is stressful. It brings out in people what they never thought they had in them. And when they begin to manifest these things, they don't even realize what they are doing to people, especially their children. Before yesterday, I was on a therapy session for 2 hours to a young family in Canada. 2 hours. And I told them this 2 hours would have cost you £180. But I'm giving it to you free of charge. And they have booked an appointment with me tomorrow. And I said, I'm going to help you because your family is almost at the verge of breaking down. You are too young to do this. You are too young to live in a house and a husband and wife living as complete strangers. They are like roommates and the children are in the house. What kind of children are you bringing up in that kind of relationship? You live in a house, the husband is screaming, the wife is screaming. You're threatening your wife is threatening you. The kids are listening. All you do is, hey, get up, kids, get up, get upstairs. But they're listening to you. And tomorrow, you begin to cry how the kids turn out. You have damaged them irretrievably. I'm going to stop here. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for obviously giving the opportunity to speak on this. I've been slightly younger than everybody, I'd say, by a bit, but based on what everybody's been saying, I just thought I'd add my own little caveat to it. So I do agree there is a lot of negative things I experienced, obviously growing up. I think I'm Igbo as well, so there was a lot of like underlying issues that you notice, obviously growing up, me and my two sisters. But I used to be angry about it, and then I thought about it more the older I got, especially when I moved over here. And the scenarios that we place ourselves in, it's not really, there's no choice from the parents anyway, to be quite honest. Between staying in Nigeria and some shitty economy where politicians are just taking the piss, and then coming over here, let's say one by one, so your mum comes first, then brings this one over, and then brings the other kid over, and then she's having to figure out, without speaking that great English, how she's going to make money and mind the kids at the same time. I can't really turn around in my 20s or whatever and be like, oh, you guys are terrible people for not spending more time with us. It's just the hand that they were dealt. Now, there's other issues that I have a big issue with. It's to do with more of the culture within, I don't know what it is, the same in Yoruba land, Igbo land, Hausa land, whatever it is, the cultural differences. Like my dad died 2 years ago. I went back to the village for the first time in my life. I'm crying. Somebody slapping me on the back of the head saying, why are you crying for? That kind of stuff. It's not like I'm a small guy either. Like that kind of stuff blows my mind because there's a fine line between being masculine and being, I don't know, whatever they're expecting you to be as a man.
I think the term is heartless bastard.
Yeah, there's stuff like that as well, you know? And even when you talk about discipline, I was coming here thinking I'm going to argue against that because the discipline is right. But no, I can't really argue against that because it comes to a point where if you're so angry, you're no longer correcting somebody. You've already allowed the anger to take over you to the point where you have no, there's no difference between hitting. You're just hitting for the sake of hitting. It's frustration. You don't know how to express yourself. So instead of you trying to figure out exactly what is going on and trying to understand yourself at that moment, you just resort to lashing out. And I feel like because of the strains of the lifestyle, and the UK is actually worse than Ireland when it comes to the cost of living and everything. I think the fact that people are working 12, 14 hours, coming home, and then they have a crazy amount of kids, they're wondering where their next meal is going to come from, how they're going to pay this bill. And then it only takes a little mistake. Somebody drops a plate, like someone said earlier, and you're taking them out with whatever you have in your hand, whether you're throwing an iron at them, it doesn't matter. But I just think that there's a lot to look at, even when we compare, like, I know somebody was saying that we're the bottom of the bar when it comes to all the other ethnicities. I wouldn't even say that because I grew up around Indians, Asians. They have their issues as well. The only difference with us is, for some reason, we're a lot more public with it. So when stuff is going on in our community, everybody knows about it, and it becomes like some sort of like, I don't know, like some show that everybody can participate in. There's loads of issues within the Asian community with, I don't know, like sexual issues, stuff like that, misogyny. There's loads of stuff going on there as well. Like the only difference with them is they keep stuff between themselves, which isn't great either because it just, sometimes they just exasperate it. And also they look like they're more willing to help each other when it comes to any situation. A black person comes over here by themselves, they can't even count on other black people to help them out if it comes to parenting, if you want to call that even a word. Like, but if you look at all the other communities, Eastern European, Albanians, Asians, they'll all be together as a bunch. They're still themselves. But for some odd reason, even when I was growing up in Dublin, we don't do that. I don't know how we view each other as black people. We don't do that. Even Africans are now dividing themselves from Western people that are black from Europe and then people that are black from America, to show you the level of, I don't know who, I don't even understand it when I try to think about it. It doesn't make sense. Everybody else comes together and they try to figure stuff out. Chinese shops or whatever it is, they'll have another Chinese man doing the daytime shifts, doing nighttime shifts. It's only Africans that don't know how to come together unless we're bashing each other. That's the only time we come together well. Unless we're deciding whether Nigerian jollof rice is better than Ghanaian jollof rice, or whether Nigerian Amapiano is better than South African Amapiano, whatever the case is. But there's a fine line between, if I want to say, there's a fine line between hating our parents for the way they raised us and then understanding why they raised us the way they did. You know, and I also think that your environment dictates a lot of your actions as a human being. Like, the reason I'm probably not a gang member from London is because I grew up in Dublin, on the outskirts of Dublin, where there wasn't any black people or gang activity. So naturally, I developed into like a black guy who didn't really like black people for ages. I didn't like other black people for a long, long time. So I think your environment dictates how you grow up. So your parents can do so much. If you got a single mother in London and she's living in Southwest London and wherever she's living, she can only do so much when she's at home to make sure that kid stays on the straight and narrow. Probably the smartest thing is to get out of London, but a lot of these things are taken out of their own hands, you know, and I do understand it. I get where people are coming from when they're saying Africans this, Africans that, but at the same time, what are the options your parents are given? Stay in Nigeria where the economy has gone to shit, the currency is now worse than it's ever been, or come over here one by one and take what you see, you know? That's the only issue with it. But yeah, that's my main input on it. There's a fine line between blaming them, in my opinion, and understanding them, because a lot of the stuff that happened to them as well was not normal. Like, I don't know what Rosetta said. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens with in Nigerian households that I didn't know till I got older and started speaking to my mom.
Me too, man. I learned this thing last year, bro. It's crazy.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it till my mom started talking to me, and I said to her, is this a thing? Because the way we make it sound is like, oh, only white people do these things. But you're hearing stuff like siblings are having sex with each other, uncles are having siblings, and all of that kind of just degenerate activities and all. You wouldn't even believe it, but there's a lot going on. The only thing is that we shine a light on it in our community. We make it, Jesus, we have Shadeborough, we have Twitter. We make sure that we exemplify ourselves as the signboard of degeneracy in comparison to everybody else. It's every day you see stuff going on in Oldham or Birmingham with different communities, but it's us, the way we don't care for each other, first of all, and then the way we portray ourselves in the public, it looks insane, you know? And at this point, who do you point a finger to? We're all pointing fingers at each other at this point. If you want to blame single mothers, you can blame them, but who makes single mothers? What, you're going to blame the black men? Okay, fair enough. Then the black men hate their mothers because they were raised by themselves. It's just a circle of viciousness until everybody starts taking accountability for their own actions one by one. It's not even about trying to get everybody to come together. No, you say, I'm having a kid now. I'm going to make sure that the same thing that was done to me when I was growing up, I don't raise them that way. It's not about, oh, I'm going to smack you now if you don't listen. Obviously, there's discipline. There's discipline to it, but it's about just thinking, okay, let me just be a step better than my mum and my dad was. Let me make sure that when I'm getting dropped off to school, I'm not looking at the other white boys and they're getting kisses on the cheek saying, oh, I love you into school. And your mum is just dropping you off because she has to hurry to work and she's basically just getting get out of the car, go in there and make sure you score well, you know? Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's all I got to say on that, guys.
Thank you, bro.
Well said. I just want to throw in there that it's not even the get out of the car. It's actually getting out of the car with a death threat. I just want to throw that in there. Sometimes people are getting slapped up on the way to school. I just want to throw that in there. And I'm speaking from a child that was slapped up, one hand on the steering wheel, the other hand slapping me on the back seat. Just throwing that in there.
All right.